Hello, and welcome to Gospel Gleanings for this Sunday, August the 2nd, 2026. My brothers and sisters, on this 18th Sunday in Ordinary Time, we hear from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 14, verses 13 through 21. When Jesus heard of the death of John the Baptist, he withdrew into a boat to a deserted place by himself. The crowds heard of this and followed him on foot from their towns. When he disembarked and saw the vast crowd, his heart was moved with pity for them, and he cured their sick. When it was evening, the disciples approached him and said, "This is a deserted place, and it is already late. Dismiss the crowds so that they can go to the villages and buy food for themselves." Jesus said to them, "There is no need for them to go away. Give them some food yourselves." But they said to him, "5 loaves and 2 fish are all we have here." Then he said, "Bring them here to me." And he ordered the crowds to sit down on the grass. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he said the blessing, broke the loaves, and gave them to the disciples, who in turn gave them to the crowds. They all ate and were satisfied, and they picked up the fragments left over, 12 wicker baskets full. Those who ate were about 5,000 men, not counting women and children. My brothers and sisters, there is something exciting about discovering a hidden treasure, finding something of great value that had been sitting unnoticed right in front of us. Some years ago, a woman in France had a small painting hanging in her kitchen, just above a hot plate. It had been there for years. To her, it was simply an old religious painting, perhaps attractive, perhaps sentimental, but certainly nothing extraordinary. Then one day, someone who knew something about art saw it and suggested that she have it appraised. It turned out that the painting, depicting Christ being mocked before his crucifixion, was a masterpiece dating back to the 13th century. When it was eventually sold, it brought tens of millions of dollars. Imagine having something like that hanging above your stove. There was another family who, while cleaning out their parents' home, discovered a small vase decorated with a fish. They remembered seeing it throughout their childhood and thought very little of it. They were preparing to get rid of it when someone recognized that it might be valuable. After it was examined, they learned that the vase had once belonged to the household of a Chinese emperor. It too was eventually sold for millions of dollars. In both stories, different people looked at exactly the same object. One person saw something ordinary, perhaps even something to be discarded. Another person saw a masterpiece. How is that possible? It depends upon how we see. The same is true in our lives. We can look at a situation and see nothing but a burden, while someone else, looking through the eyes of faith, may discover a blessing. We can look at another person and see only faults, difficulties, and aggravation, while God sees one of his beloved children. And so the question presented to us in today's gospel is very simple. How do we see things? Jesus teaches us how to look at the world with the eyes of God. And when we begin to see with the eyes of faith, it changes everything. I remember the story of a young teacher who was introducing her first grade students to fractions. She held up a candy bar and asked them, "Would you rather have 1/2 of this candy bar or 1/4?" Naturally, nearly every child chose 1/2. But one little girl chose 1/4. The teacher wondered whether the child understood the lesson, so she asked her why she had chosen the smaller piece. The little girl replied, "Because if I only take 1/4, there will be more left to share with someone else." That little girl saw the candy bar differently. Most of us would only want half, perhaps even the whole thing. But she looked beyond what she could receive and considered what she could give. How do we see things? In today's gospel, Jesus has withdrawn to a deserted place after learning of the death of John the Baptist. John was not only a great prophet, he was also Jesus' relative and the one who had prepared the way for his ministry. Jesus goes away, perhaps seeking a moment of prayer, silence, and grief, but the crowds follow him. Imagine how we might have responded. We might have said, "Please leave me alone. I need some time for myself. I cannot deal with anyone else right now." But that is not how Jesus responds. The gospel tells us that when he saw the crowds, he was moved with compassion for them, and he healed their sick. This is the first lesson Jesus gives us. Seeing with the eyes of God begins with compassion. Jesus did not see an interruption. He saw people who were hurting. He did not see a crowd that was demanding his time. He saw sons and daughters of God who needed healing. He did not see a burden. He saw an opportunity to love. My brothers and sisters, are we moved with compassion? When we look at the people around us, do we see them through the eyes of Jesus? That includes not only the people whom we enjoy being around, but also those whom we find difficult, frustrating, or exhausting. It is easy to have compassion for someone we like. The real test comes when we are asked to show compassion toward the person who has disappointed us, offended us, or made our lives more difficult. Every time we look at the cross, we see the compassion of God. God looked upon a broken and sinful humanity, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. Even while hanging upon the cross, Jesus prayed, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." That is compassion. And genuine compassion always leads to action. As evening approaches, the disciples look at the enormous crowd and tell Jesus, dismiss them so that they can go to the villages and buy food for themselves. Their solution is simple: send them away. There are thousands of people. They are in a deserted place. There are no restaurants nearby and no convenient way to feed everyone. The disciples see an impossible problem, but Jesus sees the possibility of a miracle. He says to them, there is no need for them to go away. Give them some food yourselves. Do you notice how frequently Jesus challenges his disciples? He challenges them because it is in the challenge that they must decide whether they truly trust him. The same is true for us. It is when we face something beyond our own ability that we must decide whether we will depend only upon ourselves or place our faith in the Lord. The disciples respond, 5 loaves and 2 fish are all we have here. In other words, Lord, it is not enough. And Jesus says, bring them here to me. Those words are at the heart of today's gospel. Bring them here to me. My brothers and sisters, how often do we make the same excuses as the disciples? Lord, I do not have enough time. I do not have enough talent. I do not have enough patience. I do not have enough money. My faith is not strong enough. I cannot forgive this person. I cannot handle this situation. And Jesus says, bring it here to me. Bring me your 5 loaves and your 2 fish. Bring me what you have, even when it seems inadequate. Bring me your limited time, your imperfect abilities, your wounded heart, and your uncertain faith. Perhaps you want to serve more generously, but your schedule seems too full. Bring your calendar to Jesus. Perhaps you want to help someone in need, but your resources seem too limited. Bring what you have to Jesus. Perhaps there is someone you need to forgive, but the wound is too deep and the anger is too strong. Bring your heart to Jesus. Bring it to the foot of the cross. Bring it to the altar. Bring it to the Lord and allow him to do with it what you cannot do by yourself. Because once compassion leads us to offer what we have, a miracle becomes possible. Jesus takes the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. He looks up to heaven, says the blessing, breaks the loaves, and gives them to the disciples, who gives them to the crowds. They all eat and are satisfied. Notice those actions. Jesus takes, blesses, breaks, and gives. Those same actions point us toward what happens at the altar. We bring simple gifts of bread and wine. They may appear ordinary, just as the loaves and fish appeared insufficient. But through the power of Christ, they become his body and blood, soul and divinity, food for our journey and strength for everything he asks us to do. At every Mass, we witness the greatest treasure in all the world. To someone without faith, the Eucharist may appear to be nothing more than bread and wine. But through the eyes of faith, we recognize the Lord himself present among us. It all depends upon how we see. And when we receive Christ in the Eucharist, he does not strengthen us merely for ourselves. He sends us out to become instruments of his compassion. He feeds us so that through us he may feed others. He blesses us so that we may become a blessing. And when the Lord becomes involved, there is always more than we expected. The Gospel tells us that after everyone had eaten, the disciples collected 12 baskets filled with what remained. They began with almost nothing, and they ended with abundance. That is what happens when we place what we have into the hands of Jesus. The Lord is never limited by the smallness of our offering. He can take the little we possess and accomplish more than we could ever ask or imagine. And so, my brothers and sisters, whatever you are struggling with today, and whoever you may be struggling with, bring it to the foot of the cross. Bring it to the altar and pray a very simple prayer. Lord, give me your eyes. When your spouse is aggravating you, Lord, give me your eyes. When your children are testing every ounce of your patience, Lord, give me your eyes. When someone at work fails to appreciate everything you do, Lord, give me your eyes. When you encounter someone who is poor, lonely, frightened, difficult, or forgotten, Lord, give me your eyes. Help me to see beyond the burden and recognize the blessing. Help me to see beyond the interruption and recognize the person who needs compassion. Help me to see beyond the little I possess and trust what you can accomplish with it. The world may see 5 loaves and 2 fish. Jesus sees a feast. The world may see something ordinary. Jesus sees a hidden treasure. And when we learn to see with his eyes, compassion leads to action, action opens the door to grace, and miracles begin to happen. Thank you, and have a wonderful weekend.